gardeners. So today I am here with Janamba, my male pixie frog. He's a pretty big guy, as you can see. He is like quite the handful. But his enclosure has looked god-awful for like the past few months, and I've been wanting to redo it. So if you watched my last video, you have seen that Josh's frog sent me like everything that I need in order to set up Janamba in his new bioactive enclosure. So that is exactly what I'm going to be doing today. So I'm going to show you everything that I do step by step in case you guys are interested in setting up your own bioactive enclosures. And let's just get started. I'm like so excited to do this because I've wanted to do it for so long, and I know this guy will appreciate it. So this is what I'm working with right now. It's literally just a 55-gallon full of Eco Earth, and then this water bowl, which definitely isn't even big enough for him. Like, he like fills up the whole thing now, and then there's just nothing going on. It is just the most boring, ugly enclosure. So I am just gonna get started. The very first thing that I need to do is basically just remove everything out of this enclosure. So I got most of the Eco Earth out. I'm not going to try and get any more because I'm just going to be putting more substrate on top of it anyway, and I am sick of breathing in all of the dust. So yeah, that's going to be good for now. So we're going to move on to the next step. So now that I've taken out all of the Eco Earth, I can move on to the next step, which is adding my new substrate. Usually with a bioactive enclosure, it would require having the drainage layer, and that was always one thing that I absolutely hated about bioactive enclosures, just because it was such a hassle to set up. But with the substrate that I'm using, you actually do not need a drainage layer. So what I'm using is Josh's Frog's bio bedding, and this is something that they make themselves, and it is the perfect substrate because it retains the humidity needed, and it also just supports all of the helpful organisms that you're going to need in order to have the bioactive enclosure. So it will just sustain all of the isopods and springtails, keep the humidity up, and everything else that's in there actually works as a drainage layer in itself, so that way you don't have to add the hydro balls or anything to the enclosure. So it basically just comes in this bag, and I just have to make sure that everything is moist. So I'm going to show you how I do that. I'm going to put down a kind of thin layer first, and then I am going to just add the isopods and springtails and then put my final layer back on top. So let's go ahead and get to it. So now that the substrate is down, it's my very first layer. I'm just going to spray all of it and make sure everything is nice and moist. So I've done my first layer. You basically want to make sure that it's a nice chunky consistency. You don't want to squeeze it and have water coming out of it because then it's too much. So once it's pretty clumpy like this, you should be just fine and ready to go with this substrate. So now that that layer is done, that's just the very first layer. It's about like maybe an inch or two. Now I'm going to be adding the isopods on top of that first layer. And now we have this container that has the springtails, so we're just going to add some of this throughout the enclosure. And now I'm going to add my final layer of the substrate on top. So the substrate's looking really good, but I still have like a layer. I still want it to be up higher just because this is going to be his new water bowl and I want him to be able to get out. Luckily, I still have extra substrate. So instead of misting the dirt, it's actually easier just to put it in a bucket and let it soak, similar to Eco Earth. Just make sure that it's the appropriate consistency and make sure that it's not like dripping when you take it out, because again, that's just way too wet. So you just want it to be nice and clumpy. And one more tip that I keep leaving out, you want to make sure that the water that you're using is RO water or water that's been dechlorinated. The substrate is now exactly how I want it. I made like a little higher up path so he can get into the water bowl over there. And now the fun part is going to be adding all of the plants wherever I want them to be. So now I have all of the plants planted exactly where I want them. I kind of have them just going all around the border of the enclosure, so that way he has a nice little land area over here. And now I just have to fix his water bowl and put some rocks in there so that way it's not super deep for him. And then he should be pretty good. Last thing that I have to do is just set up his little heat, and I'm going to put the hot end over here so that way he could just have a little bit of a warm section because it is getting cold. So Janemba is in his new enclosure. He has his water bowl over here. It has a deep end over here. It's kind of hard to tell. And then he has a shallow end over here so he can get out of the enclosure whenever he wants. And then all of his plants are kind of on the border. He already dug one of them out because he kind of just wanted to plop himself over here. This seems to be his favorite plant so far. But all of them are just on the border just so that way they're safe from him, because as you can see, he's like a bulldozer. Like, he will just go truck through anything. But I definitely think he seems way happier in this enclosure. So there's just way more to look at. There's more hiding places, and I have his heat over here. It's like balancing right now. I'm not going to keep it like this. I definitely need to get a top for this tank. I threw it out because this used to be a turtle tank and I didn't think I would need a lid again. So that was bad judgment on my part. But anyway, everything's looking really great. He seems very, very happy. So that makes me happy. He just keeps burrowing in and doing his thing. So yeah, thank you so much, Josh's Frogs. This turned out amazing. So I finally finished with Janemba's enclosure. It's looking really great. For those of you that aren't familiar, bioactive enclosures basically just mean that you have an enclosure that has live plants and it has organisms within the enclosure that will work as a cleanup crew. So the isopods and springtails are those organisms that will work and basically eat away the waste. So it's really great with bioactive enclosures because they don't require as much maintenance because they basically are their own ecosystem. So the whole tank is just going to be cleaning itself out. Every 6 months or so, you should just redo everything and take out half of the dirt and just replace it. Other than that, in order to clean it, you obviously just spot clean, and you can just take a fork and just like work the fork through the enclosure in the substrate just to make sure that everything can still breathe. And you obviously want to keep spraying the plants every single day and keeping everything moist because it will retain that humidity that you need for the enclosure. I personally think that he just seems happier in that enclosure. There was nothing interesting going on before, and now he has plants that he's looking at. There's new smells. There's just, it's a completely new environment for him. So I think that it's just way more stimulating for him, and he's going to be happier this way. So if any of you guys are interested in creating your own bioactive enclosures, this works perfectly for any animals that basically you'd find in the rainforest. So anything that requires a very high humidity level. You can also use this substrate for crested geckos, day geckos, other types of frogs. Whatever it be, it works perfect. And again, you won't need that drainage layer as long as you don't have a misting system. It was the easiest setup. That is by far my favorite substrate now. I am like obsessed with it. Now I want to like redo all my enclosures bioactive because that was just so easy. So thank you again, Josh's Frogs. I could not be happier with all of these products. The plants look so amazing. I'm just so happy with how everything turned out. And for any of you that are interested in setting up your own bioactive enclosure, definitely go check out Josh's Frogs because they have literally everything that you could possibly need. And again, if you want to check out their shop, you can get a discount of 15% by using my coupon code Reptilian Garden at the checkout. So a huge thank you to Josh's Frogs, and thank you all for watching. Definitely go check out their shop. I will put everything in my description so you can check out their shop. You can also find Josh's Frogs on Instagram and Facebook. And Josh's Frogs also has their own YouTube channel, so you should definitely check that out because they have some really useful videos on there too. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.